Okay, moving with the 2022 paper, Balanta. Okay, Metana, you know, there was no current context question. Balanta, here, negative externality story was there. There was something on taxation, incidence of tax, legal and economic tax incidents. We know those. Then there was method. This is not very current context, lamai. Okay, so even yes, even 21 that is not very current context. The budget deficit widening, that is consequences you can even write from your theory knowledge. Okay, so here compare the merits and demerits of a direct and indirect. So that is okay. Now last year they increased all the taxes. Now with Ranil coming, right? It's not really current. It is also theory, but a little bit of a relevant theory kind. So no real current context asking what are the measures the government took to increase revenue, why has this been widening, what has been happening to debt. Those kind of really current context questions. So last year also there was no, sorry, 21 also there, 22 also there. Maybe if you are lucky, your year also it might not be there. We don't know. But if you're even luckier, your year there might be there. And I'll tell you, Lamai, for the ones who are getting a A, having a current context question is good because you all will write and others can't write. Sounds a little very evil though. The one sometimes the fellow who studies hard to pass the exam, he might not know all the current context. He doesn't know the numbers. He doesn't know what. The ones who have studied nicely, go on for classes, all of that, those fellows know. So that impacts your Z score, Lamai. So the easier the paper, your Z score is very low. Huh? The harder the paper gets, then no average student mark goes down. If the paper now Z score is how well you are compared to the average student. So if the paper is very hard, average mark comes down. You have done well. So Z score goes up. Paper is very easy. Everyone has got, let's say, around 60, 70 marks. You have got 80 marks. So you're only like 10 marks better than the average person. Z score won't be that. That is why usually like why difficult subjects have better Z scores, they say. You know, that kind of a thing is what is that. The school paper asking 2020 in MCQ here. 2020 is now outdated, guys. They are not going to ask 2020 statistics. They'll ask for 21 or 20. Okay? Right. So we get into this. Question 1. Quickly give me answer. Classify the following goods as public merit or demerit. Radio transmission. Public the merit, the demerit. Think of the characteristics and answer. Radio transmission, signals, radio signals and all. What are those? Public, right? Non-excludable. Okay, you can't stop someone from getting radio signals. If I have a small radio and a small antenna in that radio, I will get the radio. So non-excludable. Non-rival. Just because I am getting radio signal doesn't mean you're my neighbor, not getting. Okay, so it is a public. What about vaccination, Lamai? Come on. Public merit or demerit? You can consider it as a merit. Okay. What about cigarette? No, 21 data get it from the 2022 central bank. The updated numbers are there. Deep. What about this, Lama? What about museum? Public merit, demerit. Now, ideally, this is a quasi-public, semi-public. But how now? Here they have not told us. No, you can't put those things. They have asked us classify whether they are either public merit or demerit. Then what do you put it under? We learn it under theory under semi-public because it can be excludable, but it's non-rival. What do we put it under here? Others, what do you all think? Do we put it on, do we say, definitely it's not a demerit good, right? Okay, public is in brackets, semi-public. Or do we put it, do we say merit or do we say public? Think. What do we do now? These are not hard questions, but you have to know something to write in them. Do we put it under merit? Do we put it under demerit? Do we put it under sorry, demerit නැතුව ඇති. Do we put it under what? So ideally, this kind of a question, they will give you, they should have an alternative answer also in the marking scheme. So ideally, most correct is that it's a quasi-public. Okay, it's a quasi-public good. Okay, they should give you this. Then then you can also go into, and ideally, I feel you can say that it is a merit good also. They should give you marks for both of this in the marking scheme. If I'm not mistaken, it was adjusted. I think original marking scheme said merit, but in the discussion, they also gave marks for quasi-public. Okay. It's a merit good lamai because now, for example, when you go to the museum and all, you learn stuff, right? You see some stuff, you learn about the history of the country, like, education. There is like a positive example that can get generated. You might go and tell your friends about, look here, I saw something like this. Did you know this was the king after this fellow? This one was there, that kind of thing happens, right? So you can put it into merit as well. Okay. Same. Free education will be you can put it under private, no? Free education, it's excludable also, like if you don't, now that doesn't mean everyone. Now, if you take a government school, definitely excludable. If you, let's say, unless you live in that area close by, they don't take, you, if you can't be living in, let's say, Kalutara and applying for Royal College at Columbus 7, they might not take you unless you show like a fake address in Columbus 7, they are not going to take you. So, kind of excludable also, and definitely rival, because there are only number of people that you can take, no? For grade 1, let's say only one class, only 40 students. So when one fellow comes, that the opportunity for another person definitely goes on. So free education also, you can put it as private too. Okay. Now, then my second one. Okay. Now this one, interesting, kind of like a new question. I want you all to practically think and tell me, Lamai. Now I'll tell you in your paper, Lamai, sometimes no matter how much seminars, how much mock papers, whatever you do, there can be certain instances where a question that you didn't prepare will come. That is guaranteed. Something like that will come. You can't be 100% prepared any day. No matter what you do, there will be a question. You can't leave the question no matter. Right. You tell me merits and demerits of direct and indirect taxes. Okay. You tell me, Lamai, what are the merits kiyanne, the advantages, the good side. Demerits kiyanne, the bad side. Okay. First, we'll talk about direct taxes. What are direct taxes? Like your income tax and stuff like that. No? So, what are the merits? What are the good sides of those? Definitely easy to collect, because if you take, but even this is also okay, right? You can say easy to collect, Lamai. You can say the good side. One thing I can say, Lamai, right? The monada. Yes, helps reduce income inequality. Good. Anything else? So you can say, Lamai, okay, it can helps reduce income inequality, because you charge direct taxes, right, from the rich people, no? Like inequality. Okay, you can say this. Then what else? You can say, Lamai, easy to collect also. Yes, you can say it is comparatively easy to collect, because now if you take like things like income tax, Lamai, the company itself will calculate the income tax, and for all the employees, they will be paying that. Okay. What else? Anything else? Lamai, in a direct tax, remember the tax incidence. Can you shift a direct tax? Can you shift it? No, no. So now, if the government wants to put a tax on this fellow, he can specifically target this fellow and put. Now, if they put like an indirect tax like VAT or something, now let's say government wants to target the Ceylon Tobacco Company, and they are going to put a tax to them. What does Ceylon Tobacco do? They soon transfer it to the consumer. They transfer it to cigarette by increasing the cigarette price. Those are indirect taxes. So indirect taxes, you can transfer your tax incidence near. You can move your tax incidence here and there. But when you take, let's say, a direct tax, another good thing is, okay, it is difficult to, you can say it's difficult to shift. So, what is the good thing there? That is, the person who is intended to pay, the government tells this fellow to pay, and he is the one who actually ends up paying. So, those can be the merits, guys, the good side. Can you all tell me certain demerits? What is the difficulties of, let's say, a direct tax? Think of Lamai now, what has happened these days. Now, how many people left the country because of this tax hike? That's there, right? Recently, because of now, in the last 1-2 years, because government increased taxes, how many professionals left? Yeah. So you can say, Lamai, right? This can result in brain drain. What is brain drain? Brain drain kiyanne, the people who are what? People who are really smart contributing. So they are the people who are doing hard work, or people who are really smart and who are actually educated and contributing. They might now migrate because they don't want to be paying 30-40% tax in Sri Lanka. Okay, that's one. What else, Lamai? Now, do you think all the people pay direct taxes? Do you think everyone files their records properly and pay direct taxes? So you can say, Lamai, the opportunity for tax evasion, right? The opportunity for tax evasion is high. Now, these kind of taxes, Lamai, even companies, they can show fake numbers. They don't have to show the real number, no? They can show different other numbers, and they can, safely reduce their taxes. That kind of thing is there. Then, it, මොනවාද? වෙන මොනවද තියෙන්නේ? Anything else? Unfair to certain people whose income is only salary because people have wealth. You can say that, but then that's like for a very little part, Now here you wrote that it helped reduce income inequality, then don't write it again this side. You can say, Lamai, it discourages saving. Why does it discourage saving, Lamai? Because whatever the money you have, you pay as taxes. Now, if you take, Lamai, now in Sri Lanka, just take a normal household, right? If a person, now I'll tell you, I have a friend of mine, his salary is around 330,000. Yes, this is my friend. His salary is around 330. But after taxes and everything, to his hand, disposable, he gets only 250. So that means around 80,000 has gone for EPF, ETF, tax and all. So when this tax and all is very high, Lamai, you don't have enough money to save. No. Now he's actually having only 250,000 to do whatever he has. So now, otherwise, now if not for those taxes, that 80,000 he would have saved. Savings means that can be channeled through investments that can help with a lot of other things, capital formation and all. So you can talk about those. Right. Then we'll go into indirect. Give me this. Indirect taxes like VAT, excise duties. What are the merits of these, Lamai? You can convert make it. Even indirect taxes, Lama, you can say, okay, it is easy to collect. That is one thing. Now, indirect taxes also, people don't have to pay separate, with the good itself, they will pay and you can collect. That becomes that. Then, can be used to discourage the consumption of what? You can use indirect taxes to discourage the consumption of what type of goods? You can use it to discourage the consumption of demerit goods. Okay, you can do that. Anything else? And then you can also say, what else? So you can say, okay, no disincentive to work. Right now, there will not be brain drain and all. No. When you increase VAT and excise duty, and there is no brain drain. People will not migrate. That is not there. Okay. So no disincentive. Now, merit direct taxes creates a disincentive to work. People don't want to work now. They'll either move abroad, they'll stop working because so much of tax. So here, that this is not there. So no disincentive to work. Yes, can tax goods with inelastic. Eka daanna discourage මේකට. Then what are the bad sides, Lamai? What are the demerits of a indirect tax? You can say, Lamai, they can be regressive neither. Don't you think? Sometimes the burden on the poor person is high, right? Remember, we've done this in the mock exam also. We discussed how indirect taxes can be regressive to a certain extent, where the as a portion, as a percentage, the poor person has to bear a very high percentage compared to low person. Now, let's take something like a tax on, I don't know, let's say a tax on, let's say cigarettes. So a poor person from his 20,000 salary, when he's smoking, he has to pay, let's say, 1,000 as taxes. So 5% for him. Rich person from his 100,000 salary, he's paying only 1,000. So that kind of thing can be there. Discriminatory means, Lamai, that it is unfair. Certain people have to pay, certain people are avoided, that kind of thing. So you can say this, Lamai. It can be regressive where the poor might have to bear a bigger burden. Poor burden is high. You can also say, Lama, yes, it can contribute to inflation. So these indirect taxes, right, when you put VAT and all, what happens, Lama? Prices go up, neither. Prices go up, you can say it contributes to inflation. What else? What else? So for indirect taxes also, Lama, you can also say it can be difficult and costly to collect also. Like so many small firms, VAT තියනවා, අරව තියනවා, right? Now there is something called SVAT also. That's called a simplified VAT. Okay, so they are bringing so many different things. It's very hard to collect. These VAT refunds are there, VAT payments are there. You know, that collection process and all is comparatively a little bit difficult. So you can say administrative difficulties, right? Maybe the cost and all of that. And then also, Lama, you can also say, remember, when we talk about in unit number 3 product connect කරලා බලන්න. When there is an indirect tax on producers, supply will shift. That creates what? That creates a deadweight loss. So you can say indirect taxes can cause inefficiencies in the market. You can say it can generate in a negative, it can generate in a deadweight loss. That kind of a thing you can try. Is that okay, Lama? Shaped. So you don't have to give a lot of points. Since it's a 4-mark question, you can give around 2 to 3 points per thing is more than enough. Here also, if you want, you can put it on like a table. Maybe the marking scheme has it on a table. You can give it in point form. Okay. Under indirect merits, third point, no disincentive to work. Just because you put a indirect tax, that doesn't act as a incentive to work. That's what I'm saying. Cost of living increases, yes. So the indirect tax, the inflation part. So you can't write cost of living inflation both separately. You can say prices go up, inflation increases, that will increase cost of living. And then time we'll go to the third one. See, last year, lot of questions on taxes, no? Last question was also on tax, make up tax, because last year tax. 21 and 22 annual report, 21 figures are different, which are the different. Ideally, go for the 2022 CBSL report, the 21 data. Those are the updated figures, the better ones. Indirect taxes, demerits, it's regressive. Regressive, where the burden on the poor is comparatively high. Yeah, that's the first point. Okay. Then Lamai will go into this. What is meant by incidence of taxation? Purely theory question. Can you all tell me what is tax incidence? What is tax incidence? How do you define no? How do you write for 2 marks? Tax incidence කියන්නේ මොනවද? Like give a small whatever definition or whatever that you all would have studied for tax incidence. Is what? So tax incidence lamai, tax incidence can tax burden එක, right? So you can say in simple words you can say, right, when a tax is imposed, right, who bears the tax? That is what you call tax incidence. So there is something called the legal tax incidence. There is something called the economic. Don't go and explain that because that is the next part of the question. Okay, so what is a tax incidence? You don't have to write a lot, Lama. It's only a 2-mark basic question. So you can say, what is tax incidence? It's when a tax has been imposed, who bears the tax? The party who bears the tax, right? That's what you call the tax incidence. So tax incidence, you can say, can fall on consumers, can fall on producers, and to which extent which party bears will depend on the ability to shift the tax. Now, if a tax is put on the producer and if he shifts the entire thing on the consumer, then the tax is on the consumer. Maybe he doesn't shift it, then the entire thing is on the producer. So that is what tax incidence is. Who bears the tax? Then this tax incidence, you all know, can be divided into legal and statutory tax incidence. So, sorry, legal is statutory, and then you have the economic tax incidence. So, what is the legal tax incidence? The legal tax incidence is when there is a tax, who is legally responsible to pay the tax. Okay, who is legally responsible? For example, you can say when, let's say, an excise duty is imposed on the producer of cigarettes, the legal tax incidence will fall on the cigarette company or on Ceylon Tobacco. It will fall on them. But sometimes these taxes can be shifted. So when the taxes can be shifted, Lamai, the legal and the economic starts to become different. So what is economic tax incidence? Economic tax incidence is whose real income is affected. Whose real income is affected because of this tax, who actually has to pay the money. Now, maybe when a tax on cigarettes are put, the company is only paying the tax to the government. They are the ones legally responsible. But the burden is on us, right? So the real income of whom is affected? It's our real income that is affected. So you can say that. And you can say, Lamai, when you take a direct tax, in a direct tax, the statutory tax incidence and the economic tax incidence is the same. So in a direct tax, you can't shift the Lamai. So if the government puts an income tax on me, I am the one legally responsible of paying also. It's my income who gets affected also. So that is a direct. Then if you talk about an indirect tax, Lama, you can say due to the possibility of shifting this tax, the economic and the legal can be different. So you can give an example and you can explain. These are purely basic theory question, Lama. Can you all handle something like that? Same. So you look at the marking scheme and come up with your answer, but I'm hoping you all know the theory behind it to write an answer. Okay. Then Lamai, the last question. Okay, this is something that we already know, guys. So I'm not going into very detail. We've discussed all of this. How does a negative externality in consumption affect allocative efficiency of resources? Okay. Explain your answer using a diagram. So how are you going to explain that? So you need to explain this whole under consumption thing, saying that look here, these goods are under consumed. And you can also talk about the dead weight loss a little. Now, when does a dead weight loss happen? A dead weight loss happens when you don't produce the allocatively efficient quantity neither. So you can say, look here, you all know the underconsumption story, say that resources won't be allocated enough, there will be underconsumption, that. And now 6 marks, make it draw the diagram. They are saying no, explain using a diagram. So you draw the diagram also. Okay, you have the demand curve, supply curve, right? So this is the marginal social cost and the marginal private cost. Then consumption, what happens? The private benefit negatively, marginal private benefit is greater than the marginal social benefit. So ideally, you should have been producing here, right? Where social benefit equals social, you should have been producing here. Then lamai, but where have you actually been producing? Actually, you produced here, right? So this leads to monada, this leads to a small inefficiency. There is a net social dead weight loss that gets created there. Okay, so you can say, look here, because of this, there is a dead weight loss that gets created as well, and you can kind of explain lamai. So allocatively efficient quantity method, but you are overproducing this. Look here, that kind of a thing is what you can say. Is that fine? The story that we already kind of know and what we have kind of discussed. So talk about the social benefit, private benefit, external benefit, say that, private benefit is greater than this, goods are underconsumed, draw the diagram, say that, look here, then there is a dead weight loss that gets created, right? So all of that you can talk about. Is that fine? Yes, all for externalities will have a dead weight loss. Dead weight loss occurs when you don't produce the allocatively efficient quantity. I will explain this in the seminar also. This a change in economic surplus, dead weight loss, social welfare loss, all of that I will, we have a seminar on the unit 3 lessons, right? There I will properly clarify all of those for you all. We'll discuss that. Okay, is that okay? That's the basic story of this entire thing. Okay. I can't remember the date of the thing, guys. Already we have done 4 sessions. If you want, you can register for all 8. You will get the recordings of the previous 4. Or if you want, you can only come for this one. It's in the open. I'll share the flyer. Okay, right. Done. So that is it with the unit 8 pass, pay,